Welcome to the Crypto Corner. My name is Mike, and I want to do a quick recap of what happened this week, guys. It was a very uneventful week given the fact that we had a very ranging price action until we actually got a bit of a pop to the upside, which was really nice. Of course, we're going to celebrate all the pumps. This is what we do. But at the end of the day, guys, we have to understand that as the market tries to form its bottom, we are going to get a bit of volatility. And this is the reason why we need to keep up with what's happening on a daily basis throughout this space. And this is what I want to do with you guys today. Just do a quick recap in review, just looking at what's going on throughout the week that passed. As we can see that the market cap is grinding slowly, trading volume is coming down. It's expected as it is the weekend. But guys, look at the trending coins at the current moment. We have official Trump token actually doing great, 6.3% to the upside, and World Liberty Financial is doing amazing, 15% pump. Guys, why is that the case? We're going to be talking about that in a second. We'll take a look at what's going on with those charts and obviously the news and such things like that. The MYX finance chart is also pumping right now, 58% to the upside, guys. Those are crazy moves to the upside, obviously ones of which require tons of celebrations and congratulations to any of those individuals that happen to buy those bottoms. However, guys, now's not the time to get bullish on projects that pump 50-60%. Okay, just keep in mind, we don't buy tops, we buy bottoms, and we look for those opportunities on a daily basis. All right, guys, let's quickly scrape to the top 100. Just quick, I just want to see what's going on here today. For the weekend, we're not getting much action, pretty sideways. Some gainers, some losers, but nothing major. As you can see, Zcash is up approximately 5%. Not bad for the privacy narrative. Guys, it's a very important narrative. But again, World Liberty Financial, based on what's going on throughout the market, guys, it is definitely deviating. You can see that. That's crazy. Crazy pump to the upside. Now, the question is it time to buy in? Is it time to get in now? Guys, be very careful buying in those green pumps because ultimately, guys, we look for exit liquidity at any given point. We can see a dip down. So be careful out there. We have, what else? A couple others. Nothing major, as you can see as I'm scraping through the top 100. Nothing major. MYX, like I mentioned, very trending right now at the current moment. We're seeing nice pumps and the official Trump token. So basically speaking, the market is fairly sideways today. But guys, this week has been fairly sideways until it wasn't. And we got a bit of green throughout the altcoin market. Guys, if you recall, the altcoins were actually doing pretty good. All right, guys, let's take a look at some charts. Let's see what's going on for today. Obviously, we were looking at the MYX chart or the actual token, how it was flying. And you can actually see that it flew. Now, because it is trending, I am anticipating that a lot of people are going to be looking at this and saying, maybe I should be buying, that FOMO, that whole emotion that comes in when we start looking for opportunities. Guys, this is not an opportunity. Okay, let's be real. The opportunity was down here. The opportunity to buy bottoms was around $2 to $3. After that, guys, right now, people have the mentality, I doubled my money, let me get my initial investment off the table. Take half on the double. That's a very viable strategy. Many of you should be doing that on a daily basis. Always have a plan to de-risk. But generally speaking, guys, if you're looking at this chart, you want to pull back into the fair value zone, at least 50% retracement, something to look for support. Maybe we do come down for a lower low. What do we know? But ultimately, guys, now's not the time to FOMO into this. And then in addition, what's trending today is the World Liberty Financial. As you can see, it has been doing great, the last 24 hours. And we'll talk about why in a second. But it is currently hitting resistance, as you can see. If it can get back above this yellow line, back test in spring, the target is the range highs, and that's what I would be interested in seeing. In the meantime, guys, this is resistance. This is not times to get into fresh longs. Okay, be careful. Just because it's trending with a decent amount of volume, you got to ask yourself, why is that the case? Why are we getting such volume? This week was quite interesting for charts, to be honest. The altcoins in general have been doing very well. And to the matter of fact is that even if you look at the others suggest that throughout the last few days, 3 days or so, even if back here, even despite the retracement throughout the holidays, we've been seeing a bit of some strength out of the altcoin market. Not a lot, but just a bit. Enough to suggest that we got a nice 10% pump across the market on altcoins, which is not bad. We'll take all those pumps, no doubt. However, guys, we got to be very clear on the fact that we're still on the downtrend on the bigger picture, meaning on the 4 hour. The daily still still okay. It's just a 4 hour that's a little bit, giving us a bit of a challenge, and it's based on the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so we're going to take a look at Bitcoin real quick. As you can see, the retracement, it is what it is. We're still in a downtrend. We're consolidating. A lot of us are hoping that this becomes a reversal where we start to see a full-on reversal. The bears are hoping for one last flush or maybe another continuation. Regardless, this is a range that needs to be played. For me personally, guys, it is an opportunity to see a Bitcoin perhaps come down for a swing and, maybe put it in a failed breakdown, get back above and spring. Maybe we do get a nice fat rounded bottom right here where we start moving to the upside as we speak. But until then, guys, be very passive. Don't be aggressive here. Slow and steady DCA. Look at what's happening throughout the market and look for those opportunities. Okay, so Bitcoin still showing strength in the short term, but big picture, like throughout the week, really what happened? Nothing much. Nothing much. Okay, so it is what it is. Now, let's see what's going on with the news events, guys. So just to breaking, this is happening right now. This is the top most trending thing at the current moment. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail here regarding all the details behind the news, and the reality is some of these news events do affect the charts. They do affect our sentiment. Now we got to be real. What happened here? Okay, so the United States happened to go into Venezuela and take over what was happening over there, which was nothing much, to be honest. And Maduro was captured apparently, and this is what's happening right now, is where Trump and the administration want to go in and clean up and get their oil things, let's call it, fix with the broken infrastructure that they got, step in and help Venezuela run until they get a new government going in, and so on and so forth. Why am I bringing this up? Because the truth is that this volatility might impact the charts. Now, this in fact happened throughout the weekend. And as the weekend is in full effect, we know that the charts or the markets are not active. The traditional finance right now, the stock market is not open. So the market is not there to react based on this news. However, guys, we're getting some reactions throughout the crypto space. Like I mentioned, we saw the Trump token and the World Liberty Financial token pumping. So anything that related to Trump here in the crypto space is pumping. But what's going to happen when the Asian market wakes up, when we start to see the traditional markets wake up on Monday on New York Open? This could bring a bit of volatility throughout the market, okay, guys? Now there's a bit of uncertainty in what's happening with Venezuela as far as the reactions from the world, like, the counterparts. And we're talking about what happens to the alliances that Venezuela has. Are they going to be stepping in and making statements and so on and so forth? How does this actually affect oil prices, given that they have a huge oil reserve and such and such? So again, these are things that we need to consider when we're playing with oil, when we're playing with these terms that bring on civil unrest. Usually markets react. Could they react bullish here? It could be possible. Okay, and the crypto space is kind of giving us our first indication that it could be a bullish response throughout the space. Okay, so just keep that in mind. What else we got here? Let's keep on going. The Trump administration, we are closer than ever to passing landmark crypto market structure legislation. Guys, legislation, Clarity Act, all of this, we need to know what's going on with crypto space and ultimately how we're supposed to navigate the guardrails within this new emerging industry. The thing is that they're taking their sweet time here. In my opinion, and of course, the many opinions out there are suggesting that this is long overdue, and at the same time, we need to get this going because we started a new year, guys. Congratulations, happy new year to everybody. But at the same time, guys, we need to know what we got to be doing with our bags and what type of risk we're associated with. And ultimately, guys, if we're going to see institutional players get involved, they also need to know the risk that they're getting involved in. So this clarity or this structure or this, overall legislation that we actually need in this space needs to come sooner than later. Okay, so I'm glad to see that this is still in the talks, is still in the works, guys, but we need to get cooking here. Trump's got to go cooking. The guy's all over the place. We got to give him credit for what he's been doing, but still, this for industry specific, this is a necessity, guys, and it needs to happen ASAP. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then breaking, Tommy Lee Bitmine has staked 82,560 Ethereum worth $260 million today. Okay, so this is pretty good. to see, a lot of these heavyweights, the Ethereum, bull here is definitely accumulating and definitely bullish on ETH, and ETH, as the world computer as such, it definitely has its utility and its value and so on and so forth. And he's making big moves into Ethereum. At the same time, we know that Michael Saylor is making big moves in Bitcoin. We're starting to see these heavyweights make a little bit of noise. In just a week, they have staked $1.7 billion worth of Ethereum. Guys, that's a lot of money. Okay, it's a lot of money, and it's bullish for ETH to take that out of, let's say, quote unquote, circulation. The supply shock is definitely going to come in as we start to see Ethereum's transactions rise. We'll see more burning happening for Ethereum, guys. There's been a lot of burning happening in this space in the last little bit. We'll talk about that in a second, but nonetheless, guys, Ethereum in general right now is undervalued. Right, it is being suppressed in the sense that it hasn't even got into price discovery, right? So it is lagging behind Bitcoin on a big picture scale. And that catch up play that a lot of people, a lot of the altcoin degens are looking for is still a possibility. Okay, so at the end of the day, what we're waiting for is a little bit of risk on sentiment, which we got our first little wave of it over the weekend. And let's see if we can continue throughout the next couple of weeks to see Ethereum outperform Bitcoin, outperform some of the other counterparts to get risk on. Ethereum is just an indicator here, but at the end of the day, for some people like Tom Lee, he is a full-on bull. And obviously, guys, Ethereum right now is what everybody's looking at. Okay, so Ethereum needs to come up and start playing hard. Let's see what else we got. We got, guys, the fear. Are you guys fearful still? Look, you can't be fearful anymore, guys. You must be desensitized. I know I am. The fear is not there anymore. The fear happened. 1010 was a very fearful moment for a lot of us. We got wrecked. We got slapped around. It was tough. It wasn't easy. If you capitulated, I understand. It happens, right? It happens. If you got wrecked, it happens. But the reality is that we've been in extreme fear for way too long. Over a month, 2 months. I don't even know. I lost count, guys. I lost count. But the truth is that as we stay in this zone, the likelihood, the probability of actually exiting this fearful zone increases. So this is important to understand, right? The probability now is that eventually we need to shift. We can't stay fearful forever, right? Eventually we got to move. When does that happen? I don't know. We're getting a few indications, like I mentioned, that maybe we're ready to get risk on here. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin has now spent more consecutive days in extreme fear than any point in its history. So the trend is your friend until it's not. This is most important thing, is that when we look at charts, we look at data, we always assume that the trend is going to continue. But we don't realize is as the trend continues, the probability of deviation increases as well. Because again, the trend is your friend until it's not. And here we are looking at a scenario where it's been very trending in the fearful zone for a good while, right? Spending the most consecutive days, but all of a sudden, bang, we exit. And it leaves a lot of people on the sidelines and still fearful. And then eventually that fear turns into FOMO. And that's where we get more craziness, more and more craziness. So at this point, guys, we're looking for opportunity. And the fear has always shown us to bring the best opportunities. The red. I know it's cliche. I know a lot of people say that. But I have to say it, guys. I have to say it. The reality is fear is something to embrace. If you're a bull, buy those dips, accumulate passively, little by little. Don't take any crazy risk because ultimately fear is where you get the best opportunities in this space. All right, guys, let's keep on going. Let's see what else we got here. For those XRP holders and enthusiasts, approximately 700 million XRP tokens, valued at around 1.3 billion, have recently been locked into escrow. What does that mean? That means that, to a degree, we can suggest that these tokens have been taken out of circulation, right, temporarily, which means that ultimately, eventually, they will be entered into circulation. So, but nonetheless, in the short term, we are seeing, based on this, a potential supply shock, which is important to note that it affects supply and demand, right? So in this case, will it have an effect on price? Will it eventually drive price, assuming that demand is at least stable? Guys, this is good for XRP holders. It's something that a lot of them are happy about to see. A lot of this a lot of the coins exiting circulation for a certain amount of time based on escrow terms. is good for XRP. And based on the XRP chart, guys, any little catalyst is necessary right now as it's holding its horizontal support desperately. Okay, because there is a level of which XRP, if it loses its level, guys, it's coming down. And this is not what we want for any project, whether it be XRP or anything, Solana, whatever. It doesn't matter, guys. We want all projects to pump, all projects do well, because I want all my audience and all the followers of this channel to be in profit at the end of the day, guys. This is what we're here for, is to be profitable. Let's continue going on. And speaking of burning, guys, this is a topic that I've seen significant in the last little while. And not only that, we're anticipating some good burning off of Ethereum as soon as the congestion heats up. But Hyperliquid added over 609k users, reaching 2.9 trillion in trading volume in 2025. One of the most successful dexes, forget about perp dexes, but dex, one of the most successful platforms in the year, within the year. And guys, this is the thing, when you get those first mover advantage, when you get the first mover advantage in any industry, you tend to spearhead the profitability full on. And this is what Hyperliquid did. 85% validators approved permanent Hype token burn in assistance fund. Hyper Foundation executes burn of 37.51 million tokens. So this burn, again, these are mechanisms. This is the way they're able to basically burn some tokens to remove them from circulation. And based on demand being constant, in that case, we should see that supply shock increase its value. This is how exchanges, based on the uncertainty of regulation, were able to bring value to their holders by burning and governance, right? This is important. Burning and governance. So governance, giving people full-on governance and say within the company and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, burning is also one way. Buy and burn mechanisms are one way to get things going, stimulating the price to move up based on the supply shock. So Hyperliquid's doing pretty good, in fact, based on this decision. But from a price chart perspective, guys, what an ugly chart. You got to admit, both Hyperliquid and even Aster is pretty ugly, right? So what are we doing here? What do you think about that? We got the hot narrative, the perp dex narrative, and the two bigger perp dexes that exist. That chart looks like it's nosediving. Look, we're looking for a bottom for sure, but given the market has been showing a bit of strength the last 24 hours, 48 hours, Hype and Aster have shown none of that strength. Okay, so and this goes on to even Uniswap. Uniswap just posted a very interesting thing because unification has officially been executed on chain. Labs interface fees are set to 0. 100 million uni has been burned from the treasury. So again, more supply shock. And we're talking about a heavyweight exchange. We're talking about the main DEX for Ethereum. Okay, guys, this is important. Fees are on for V2 and set for V3 pools on mainnet. And unchained fees flow to uni burn after OP and L1 data costs. Okay, so pretty good to see Uniswap doing its thing, burning, getting active. It still has its governance token, of course. Unis, you definitely look into it. And basically, we're looking for some volume to enter this space so that Uniswap can continue transacting based on its previous strength that it had before. Because Ethereum, at the end of the day, is highly defined. Its value is highly defined on its transactional volume based on its network effect. And in a bear market or in very dry markets, we don't get much action. If you recall in the previous bull run, when Ethereum was pumping, Uniswap was one of the most used dexes in the world, right? So in this case, we're starting to see Uniswap maybe perhaps prepare for something big. So I'm hoping to see Uniswap do something amazing in the next little while. Let's move on from there. What else we got here? We got 2.2 billion in Bitcoin and Ethereum options expiring today. It's not today, actually January 2nd. Okay, but nonetheless, these options expiring are going to bring some volatility, particularly when the markets open. I'm curious to see how the markets behave. Obviously, seeing Ethereum and all these options expire, do we get some lag behavior? And not only that, we're also seeing this uncertainty or this, event that happened in Venezuela, coupled with some of this and some of that. Guys, I'm curious to see how market opens on Monday. Okay, so these are also, year-end things that happen, cyclically based on business cycle and market cycles, we start to see this happen, options being expired. And be very aware that Bitcoin and Ethereum are now part of that game. As we get these ETFs and these financial instruments permeating throughout the crypto space, guys, we're going to start to see, these Bitcoins and these cryptos, let's put them that way, behave like a traditional stock and commodity, right? This is something that we have to understand that. Okay, so it sounds very traditional, but based on this news right here. And then last but not least, guys, I hope that you weren't one of these. Okay, but this week was rough. Okay, wasn't a big effect, but it's still. Trust Wallet confirmed 2,596 affected wallets in the 7 million hack, and basically it pledged to reimburse and make everybody whole. Which for me, guys, if you don't know, Trust Wallet's owned by the Binance team, which means they got the cash, they got the money, they will definitely fix things. And you got to understand, we're still in the wild wild west. I'm not trying to make light of this or just dismiss it, but you got to understand, crypto has still a lot to work on and still a lot to achieve, and perfection is nowhere near here. We're not in perfection stage. Why? Because we're still in the wild wild west. You got to think about it like this, guys. If we were in a perfect stage in this industry where all products and services and software solutions were perfect, there would be no more opportunity to speculate. There would be no more opportunity to make any good investments, because it's a sign of maturity of perfection. Once everything is perfect, we're in a mature market. There's no volatility. So we need these opportunities. We need to still see that there's engineering to be made. And based on this, citing thousands of false or duplicate claims and the need for strict verification, you can see that ultimately there's some room for growth here, meaning that there's some room for us to make some gains. Okay, so Trust Wallet, I'm a holder. I like their connection to Binance. I like their connection to Aster. I'm expecting Trust Wallet to have Aster swaps natively. I'm expecting Binance to support this. This is something that CZ has spoken about significantly. Whether you're a CZ fan or not, it doesn't matter, guys. Don't be like that. What you're looking for is opportunity, and don't become a fanboy of any typical narrative or individual. Just look where the money's flowing, look where the interest is at, and scale in based on the fundamentals, guys, and ultimately look for opportunities that's going to bring you the opportunity to gain that financial freedom that you're looking for. All right, guys, we did pretty good here. Good week in review, pretty much, guys. The week was a little bit dry, and we're hoping to get more volatility next week. Guys, join me next week once again for this week in review update, guys. I'm going to be looking for the hottest topics throughout the crypto space, trying to keep us one step ahead of the market. Take care, guys. Have a good one.